So, welcome to the 15th session. Whoops, I didn't update the number. It's actually session number 15 of our Garden Zoom, October 19th. And
welcome all.
our schedule today, as usual, we'll just start with questions and answers. We'll have a little bit of a weekly update. I think Chad will do that, and maybe I'll say something. Then we have a couple of announcements, and we just want to discuss end of season gardening tips. So, question and answers.
Anyone have any? I was thinking. I just texted you actually because I've read different things. I know some. Oh well, no. Start with yours. Good. I didn't see that. Pop that up. I'll ask mine next.
Okay. Yeah. So my question. So my winter squash plant still has green leaves. Now, a lot of the leaves are a little bit dying back. It's not like it was in the middle of the summer, but it seems like the squash are still ripening. What do we think about, how long do I let it go? I mean, if there's going to be like a snow or really hard frost, do I have to get it in before then? What are people thinking?
I think it's a winter squash, leave it out there, but that's my personal opinion.
Yeah. What kind of squash? You said it's a regular green squash. You said, Michael?
No,
Or it's the butternut squash that's still green?
No. It's a winter squash. It's actually a variety that we got. Somebody gave us seeds, a plant last year from Malaysia. It's sort of like the size of a football, but a little bigger than like a puffy football, but one end is a little bit more narrow than the other. The squash tastes like, inside it tastes like a butternut squash, but better. Better.
Wow.
And it's been really tough. It's like no bugs had bothered this plant. It grows big plants, lots of fruits on them, and lots of squash on them. And somebody came and took a lot of ours already, but we still have a lot left.
And how close would you say it is to like looking finished?
Well, some of them probably you could say that just go and take them out right now. And some of them are a little bit smaller and would just like to see them get a little bit bigger.
Yeah, I would say I would take them out soon because I guess you said it's from Malaysia. I'm sure they're not suited for 30-degree frosts, perhaps, or maybe am I just simplifying? I don't know. I shouldn't even say, but I would say.
Well, I have a question for Sue. I mean, a winter squash is truly meant to take winter freezing temperatures?
Are you asking?
I'm asking, someone recommended.
Shannon.
I did.
Yeah, to just leave it in the winter. Are winter squash meant they are able to stay out in frost, below frost temperatures?
I think it depends on the variety of squash you have, but winter squash are typically fruit in the late fall and can be stored over the course of winter into spring. Summer squash fruits in the summer and needs to be eaten sooner because it won't store. Now, while I got you, I'm going to just say my opinion with squash is you can eat a winter squash at any point. If you eat a young fruit, basically you just treat it as a summer squash. So like Michael, the fruit that hasn't matured yet, you can eat that at any point. It just won't store as well. If you take it off the vine, it may continue to ripen, but if it's immature, it's not going to store the same. I want to know why you guys are taking the plants out at all. Like, why remove it at all? Why not let it just go until it doesn't go anymore?
Right. Okay.
Well, I guess Michael's worried about, maybe a frost hitting, dropping really low and like killing, kind of damaging.
We had a couple days here where it got down to 34 at night. The temperature on a cell phone's at 34, but everybody has a slightly different microclimate. I noticed that the grass had a little bit of frost on it, but our bean plants survived, our pole beans. We have like a couple of hedges of pole beans, and those are still fine. The leaves are fine. I've seen them, once it gets too cold, they're gone, they're done. The tomato plants, they're done. Once they hit a hard frost, they're done. But we still have tomatoes going, we still have beans going, and we still have squash going. So it's just a question of, I think I heard something about if it's going to be a hard frost, you don't want frost on the pumpkin. You don't want, I think I heard that. So if I'm looking at it's going to be 30 degrees, then that means, okay, season's over, get everything out.
I hadn't heard that, but if that's true, then that's good to know. That's not something that I had heard. I let my stuff go until it dies, and I take the fruit once the plant is dead, like the plant is officially dead and the fruit's just going to rot. That's when I'll be like, okay, you're obviously not going to grow anymore, and take it in. But if the hard frost is going to impact your fruit in a negative way, yeah, I would understand wanting to take the fruit off the vine, but I had not heard that.
You can do what I do, since this is my first major year through. Do a test. Take so that you're protected, but then leave a few out to see what happens with the hard frost.
I love that idea.
I think that's so cool. I mean, I had no idea that winter squash could take a hard winter. And I agree with whoever said, yeah, I leave everything out until it's so totally rotten. It's good for the soil.
Okay.
Well, that actually leads to my question. I was going to say, I've read various things, like with annuals, that, you know, when they're dead, do you pull everything out? Or a lot of permaculture stuff I read say, like, cut them off and leave the root in. Oh yeah, here we go. Because, you know, kind of keeps the soil aerated, and it'll rot down and take it out next year. So I've heard various things. Do you guys have any thoughts or?
I tend to leave my stuff in and prep for spring cleaning. I feel like having the stuff in there rotting away over the winter doesn't hurt anything. And then in the spring, I do my cleanup as I prep for planting anyway. So I tend to leave stuff in there, but I'm not a professional. I'm a total novice, so I don't know.
Well, I'm a total novice also, and I'm one of the most sloppy gardeners on the planet. But I have to tell you, that's what's healthy, I think, is to leave, like, to trowel it in a little bit. I wouldn't pull everything out.
No, I agree, but a lot of people.
Yeah, and I would write, like, I
clean up
used to cut down, even before I took the gardening class, I used to just cut things down and leave it. And my son is a permaculture. He's got a certificate in permaculture. So he's always telling me, Mom, leave it. You do too much work now. But my garden is not manicured and it's not pristine. I love it. It's a garden. Okay. And it's all this stuff all over the place. Okay. But I think the organic matter truly helps to build the soil.
I agree with Linda, and I also know that when I hear the most about removing stuff, it's when it has an issue that will impact your other plants. So like stuff with blight, remove stuff with blight.
Right.
Remove stuff that has a disease that will infect other plants, especially tomatoes, potatoes, and peppers. All those nightshades, they spread between each other. So like if you're trying to combat a disease, or you want to get rid of vine borers so that they're not impacting your stuff, you would rip that out and burn it. But if it's a healthy plant and it just dies from the frost and its natural life cycle, I don't know why you would disrupt the soil and leave that gaping hole there for the winter.
Oh, right. And you're not supposed to leave. I learned that the hard way last year, because a lot of my soil was left. I got most everything weeded out of this one huge garden, but that's as far as it got. And that was the one thing they kept saying to us all last winter: don't leave soil naked. Have a cover crop, leave organic matter on it. And please forgive me, is your name Sheila or Susan? I see S.
I'm Shannon.
Shannon, so sorry. Shannon, and I concur. We just had a meeting this past week, and they said if you have a plant with powdery mildew or a disease or anything like that, they did say burn it. Do not put it in your compost, burn it. So good time for campfires.
Yes. All right, I'm glad. So yeah, that's what I agree. So I'm glad you guys are backing up my thoughts.
My brother has said that those roots could be considered worm chow.
I'm sorry?
Leave the roots in the soil, they become worm chow.
What
Are they
becomes
good?
worm chow?
Yeah, worm chow, the roots, you say.
roots.
Yeah, your mic was coming in and out.
Probably, yeah. Well, that's a good thing.
Right. Although I wish Sarah was here. She's the senior gardener who runs the Warwick Community Garden, and she has said no. You have to clean stuff out, and so I know.
But you know, I think there's a big difference between perennial beds and a vegetable garden. A big difference, because things like the tomato plants and the things that will get mildew, etc. But perennial beds, it pays to have things, you know. But again, we were talking about annuals.
Well,
Right, yeah, perennials, of course, I'll definitely keep perennials.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's interesting. So Sarah believes in
Cleaning out.
cheap, like pulling up the roots and everything.
I think also that Sarah runs a community garden, so you need to have your garden prepped and ready for the next year to come in on the garden schedule. And if you're vacating a bed the next season, you don't want to leave that other person to clean out your bed. So I feel like it's also the fact that it's a community garden. I would love to hear a reasoning behind that, and I'm sad she isn't here.
I know. Well, no, she does the shared concept that I'm thinking on. So she, you know, you're not even cleaning up beds for someone else. But and yeah, I will email her and ask her. But yeah, that's right. Like some people want to leave everything pristine, but I agree with you guys that I chop and drop, let everything break down. I think it's all a great way to let the critters.
Absolutely, and I love hearing that word, permaculture.
Yeah.
There's a second question here about animals. Are all seeds going to be saved?
I save all of mine. I have a compulsion. I have a problem, so I save all of mine.
So if you're compulsive, you save everything. What if you're not compulsive? Because, you know, I had that experience of when I was first learning to garden, and I tried to plant something and it didn't come up, and I came back a couple months later and I had prepped where I was planning to do that by putting some compost in there that happened to have squash seeds. The squash were growing wonderfully. It was just huge squash, and the squash tasted great, but the seeds from those squash made terrible squash plants. So,
sometimes that's on purpose. Yes.
Right. So I don't understand exactly how the hybrid squash seeds work. I guess back at the squash seed factory, they somehow do some sort of hybrid thing so that the seeds that come out and they put in the package will give you a good squash. But then the descendants of those squash won't necessarily be good. I don't know exactly understand how it works. But it makes
well, maybe when they're growing squash for seed, they're growing row after row after row, acres and acres of all the same things. So they're only being pollinated by the other hybrid. But if you're growing a community garden, the bee could go from somebody's one kind of squash and go over and pollinate it with another squash. So maybe that could be a reason.
Yeah, that could be it also. Could be part of it.
Yeah, seed saving is a whole other fascinating world of expertise and confusing to my simple brain, right? When it, you know, the heirloom and the hybrids and the biannual and right, something, you know, like lettuce seed, that's so tiny. It's like, or carrot seed, like how the hell do you get that?
I've saved the lettuce seed. What I mean is, like, every piece of fruit that I eat that has a seed in it, I can't throw that away. I have to, like, save it in a little package and label it, or like dry it out and save it and label it. And I've only grown from my own stock like 3 successive years, but I haven't had any issue as far as my seeds not being productive. I have definitely had issues with hybrid, because this year I grew a whole lot of different types of squash all next to each other, and you could definitely tell that they were being cross-pollinated within the same year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you'll create a beautiful new
Shannon squash.
Yeah, Shannon
right?
squash.
I'm calling it a pumpkata because it's a delicata that's shaped like a pumpkin and has the coloring of a pumpkin. So I'm calling them pumpkatas. But it's like, okay, I've saved the seeds from like 6 of these, but yet every time I cut one open, it's like, okay, I got to save the seeds some more. So I have an issue. I have a problem.
Well, that's a good problem. But, you know, then maybe, you know, then hopefully next season we could, you know, do some type of seed swap, and then you could give you a pumpkatas and spread the spread.
See, that's the
pumpkin pie.
thing. That's where I worry. Like with seed swaps, like I would love to give people my seeds, but I don't know what kind of result you're going to have from this
Right.
crossbred 3 years in from a fruit I got from a farm seed, you know? And a lot of times people want to know, like, for example, Nicole, she is very thorough in knowing what her seed has and what it's capable of and the conditions it exists in. And I can't tell you any of that.
Right. She's very good in her, labeling, and that's important to be organized like that, which I am not.
My wife has grown some okra here, and she's saved seed from previous years, and it's the only okra around that we're aware of. And a friend of mine is especially interested in that because he has trouble getting okra that does well locally here. So that's like, we figure that's sort of an heirloom that's a little bit been locally conditioned and whatnot.
Yeah, I heard that you couldn't even grow it in the north, so that's great that she can grow okra.
Yeah, and
that's wonderful.
Does everybody know one of the nice things about okra is it has a pretty flower? I mean,
I didn't know that.
It's really a beautiful flower. Yeah, it looks like.
Oh, wow.
How can I describe it?
Like a giant, cool, extra awesome lily alien.
Maybe you could look up a picture and post it.
And before we pass by the plum cotta comment, I want to mention there's something called a Yeti-sized squash patch. Have people heard me describe that? What a Yeti-sized squash patch is?
No.
Oh,
It's
I'm
a
afraid.
Yeti-sized squash patch is a squash patch that's monstrously large, but it's called a Yeti-sized squash patch because if you call it a Sasquatch-sized squash patch, it'd be too much of a tongue twister.
boom. There you go.
And with that,
Sorry, my cat just bit me. I don't know if it's
Ouch.
comment on our jokes or what.
Yeah, I don't think you like that joke.
I think she's hungry. Can you feed the cat? Okay, thanks.
bulbs. So garlics are bulbs.
Mm.
Tulips are bulbs. Now is the time of year to be putting bulbs in the ground, garlic, flowers. What else is anybody else putting in the ground nowadays, or could be put in the ground?
I put bare root ferns in. I will see how they do.
Like onions. When do onions go in? That's a spring or a.
As far as I know, onions go in the spring. From everything I've been told, onions go in the spring. But I was doing volunteer work for the community medicinal garden in West Milford this weekend, and she was seeding a lot of her perennials. Like they self-seed, but she was like helping them seed. And she had explained to me that a lot of the stuff that she's seeding, you would plant now. So it would go in the ground and stay there dormant over winter and come up in the spring. And that was all like perennials, like echinacea and mountain mint and bee balm and all medicinal stuff like that.
Yeah, because a lot of the seeds need the cold. I forget the appropriate term for it. They need the cold so that they germinate.
Yeah.
Stratification, or is that the scraping?
I think that's the scraping. I forget
Right.
the thing.
Is it called chilling days or something? They need 40 chilling days?
I would look it up on my phone, but I have a 96-page document I have to read. That's there, and I'm afraid I'm going to lose my place.
Yeah, no, that sounds
wait,
like fun.
I have my tablet.
There you
Seeds
go.
to gold. Let me see if I can.
Right, so garlic is good to go in now. I'm trying to think. So now is now a good time to move perennials as well? Like if you want to move them from berries or.
Yeah, I've been reading that. I put in a shadblow tree that I ordered online. So we'll see. I've always wanted one of those for the birds that go wild in our area.
I agree with Susan. I don't think there's anything wrong with moving your perennials at this time. I know that if you're harvesting something for the root, like if you're harvesting a perennial for the root, now is the time to do it. So it makes sense to me that this is when their roots are the strongest. So if you're going to relocate them, maybe this isn't, maybe this is a good time for it. They're less likely to, I don't know, not like it or go into stress.
I I was going to wait a few more weeks,
did
but
find
then it might get too cold, I guess.
Pardon me, Chad, you were correct. Stratification is the correct word.
Oh, see,
Yeah, Chad.
I got a gold star. And all right, so I guess garlic is the main thing moving the perennials, and so and onions are spring. Okay, and they come, then they'll come up like around now. The onions are the one you plant in the spring.
I feel like you're supposed to plant them like 6 to 8 weeks before the first frost date or before the last frost date. Something like that. I think that the person that is the best to answer that question is not here.
Yes, yeah, we're doing the best. Camille, welcome. I see you joined us.
Welcome, we're eating dinner, so.
Hi to everybody.
We're listening
Hey.
intently.
Well, we were asking if you guys had any questions about, end of year stuff as far as transferring, moving, or anything like that. But otherwise, you could just eat and listen. And we've been discussing a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
And well, I don't know if you want to talk about this later. Shannon and I attended a very nice workshop this weekend by Peter Lai in Orange Environment. If you want us to give you a little update on that, we can at some point.
I would like that. What is Orange Environment? I have not ever heard of that.
Shannon, do you know? I guess is that.
Dad, why you being volunteering me and stuff?
Well, because you're smarter than me. I'm just asking. More knowledgeable about the ag.
Flattery
I
will
Peter
get
a
you
lot. But I
everywhere.
don't know if they're tied into Cornell, but they seem to be pretty. I don't know if they're an offshoot of it. But this Saturday they offered compost. They built. Again, Shannon attended the first part. I did not, but I think they showed how to do home compost. Start sprouts indoors. They build a compost bin out of pallets in 45 minutes or less. And then the afternoon was very interesting, and I wouldn't mind talking about that more. This is mushroom cultivation, which I find very fascinating.
Mhm.
And it seems like these puff balls are taking over all around us. They're pretty. They seem to be pretty prominent. Everyone's going puffball crazy, but I think mushrooms are a really interesting part of gardening, and I like to get more into it. And hopefully next year I'll venture out more. But right now they gave us a little starter in straw to make some oyster mushrooms. So hopefully in a few weeks I'll have some nice oyster mushrooms. But are any of you guys growing mushrooms or knowledgeable on the mushroom things?
No, but it sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, I'd like to.
To grow
this is right. They're such a tasty and nutritious, and I find them to be fascinating. But again, scared off of everyone's like, be careful. If you don't eat the right one, you're gonna die. So I'm very.
I have a movie to recommend to you, Chad. Last year we went to see a movie called Fantastic Fungi.
Yes,
It
I've
was
seen
a
it.
good time.
It's quite amazing.
You have seen it. Isn't it amazing? And I was just amazed by what is the web that's underneath?
Mycelium?
The mycelium. Oh my gosh. I just was amazed.
Where can I watch this movie? Because other people are talking about this movie and I would like to watch it.
I'm pretty sure it's like free online. Like you could probably go to YouTube.
I was going to say, right, YouTube. Couldn't you maybe find it on YouTube?
Yeah.
It is quite, Michael, I would even suggest us showing that as something we could do on Zoom if we possible, or set up, because some of the images are so amazing.
It's really well done, and
you can't even believe what you're seeing.
I'm a mushroom. I don't know a lot about it. Okay, but we just threw the spores on top of the wood chips. We put a ton of wood chips down, and in the spring, and so now we're getting mushrooms. But I'm not even comfortable enough to know, because there are other mushrooms growing also. But this movie, the way it explained, how that mycelium connects everything, and it's like an alien. It's not an alien force. It just is what a force of nature.
Everywhere that I'm finding it, it costs money to watch. So YouTube, it costs $4 to watch, and Amazon, it costs $4 to watch.
I'll let you know. I think they do offer it a lot. Like a lot of times on Facebook, they'll be like showing it once in a while, I guess for free. So I'll let you know next time I see that. But it's quite great. I mean, and the guy, I guess the mushroom king is this guy, Paul Stamets.
Yes.
Who's brilliant beyond, he's probably a little, he could convince you that mushrooms could solve anything in the history of the mankind.
I know.
They absorb metals and radiations, and I really like to read his book. It's called Mycelium Running. It's funny you mentioned that. That's what made him famous. And supposedly, I think it's like the largest life form on Earth. There's like some mycelium roots that go from state to state that are just amazing.
And how they how it somehow communicates. It communicates between supposedly the trees communicate with the and they draw moisture from each other. It's like wild. It's like this. Well, for me,
right. I guess all the stuff we thought of as like this white annoying stuff that I'm sure gardeners ripped up for years and said, "Oh my God, it's bad." Like that's what I would think when I first saw it. Like, oh, this white stuff, that's. My roots are rotting, and then to realize it's something so, powerful that that now you want mycelium. They sell mycelium, inoculation type stuff, but it's quite powerful. And right, the movie has images that you can't believe of colors and shapes. Yeah. It's almost like watching one of those underwater movies when you go really deep down in the ocean. Just seeing all the stuff. It's quite good. So hopefully, I'll get more into mushrooms by next year.
We harvested some turkey tails on a walk yesterday or the day before. Not me, my son. He knows when he made tea out of them. And we've also harvested out of the wood. There's something called chicken of the forest, hen of the forest.
Yes, hen of the.
So he brought one of those home, and it looks like a chicken. It's like big. And so I went he cooked it, and I went, okay, well, what a way to go, an adventure. So, but it was delicious.
At Chad's request, at the site of the future community garden, I harvested a hen of the woods mushroom and cooked it and ate it.
Yeah. And did you enjoy it?
I did. I'm enjoying it a hell of a lot better than this giant puffball that I have. I like the consistency of skull-shaped puffballs way more than the giant puffball. It tastes like a marshmallow.
Like a puff.
But like the consistency I am not a fan of the consistency. And because it's a giant puffball and it's the size of my entire torso, I now have a whole lot of this consistency that I hate.
You grew that?
Oh, I foraged it.
Oh.
So when at the event that Chad and I attended over the weekend took place at a farm in Warwick, and on pasture land or on flat grass, puffballs tend to show up. So the owner of the farm was like, "Oh, I got some puffballs if anybody wants to forage puffballs." And I like skull-shaped puffballs. So I was like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome, totally." And then I took it home and I prepped it and I went, "This is not the same thing at all."
Well, he's actually very interesting, that guy. What's his name? Dan, I believe?
Yes, his name was Dan.
Right. He was at our last class we took in art environment, and obviously he has this 50-acre piece of land in Warwick. I think he calls it the Oasis or something. And he kind of he wants to kind of be like an open space for people. So he invites people to come by, and I guess a lot of people are playing, what was that game? Golf, what's the game?
Oh, Chad. Okay, really quick. So Orange Environment was founded in 1982. It's the oldest, program of its kind of sustainability and permaculture and stuff like that in the county. So that's Orange Environment. They host a whole bunch of classes.
Oh,
and you can look them up online. And the name of the game that Chad is talking about that people play on Dan's farm is disc golf. It's across from the disc golf course of Warwick. But it's a lovely game. I suggest it to anybody if they want to try.
Thank you.
Yes, again, I said to Shannon, growing up in Brooklyn, we didn't see a lot of that going on.
I have a feeling both Peter and Dan are from Cornell Cooperative Extension, I'll bet.
Yes, Peter's from, all right, all the teachers were there are from,
Peter,
from Cornell.
Right, because Peter I met again, I think last time I was with you folks, and Dan is like a tall, youngish guy, maybe in his late 30s, mid 40s, maybe a little older with glasses.
Yeah,
No.
I don't think he's with Cornell. He's just a guy who took a class there and offered this giant. I think he wants to build a brewery there, but he's just like a really open guy, and he's like, I want
Okay,
people to
so
come and
maybe not.
share in
Yeah,
this
we
land and
have-
enjoy it. Right.
I think the
teachers there
gentleman
were-
the gentleman you're thinking of, Linda, is a guy named Ernest.
This isn't in earnest. This guy might have just taught a class or two to us at the gardening
Okay.
class, so maybe that's it. Harvest nuts. Is he big into harvesting nuts, foraging nuts, and
Who, Dan, owner of the farm?
yeah, the Dan person?
No.
No. Okay.
Right. The teachers there were Frank, was doing the compost. I can't remember his last name. And then
Joe.
Joe did the mushrooms, and Jim Hardy did the compost palette creation.
Well, I will look up this orange environment also. Jay, even the master gardeners, they're still all new to me also. It's my first.
Peter comes to some of these Zoom sessions sometimes. He's a very nice guy, very helpful.
He is very lovely.
So mushrooms, yes, I would hopefully we'll add that to my growing stuff, but need to learn a lot more.
Next time I'm giving you the giant puffball.
No, I didn't take it because I already got a giant puffball, and I tried half of it, and I found like it was like definitely not the greatest. And I'm the only one who eats that stuff in my house, so there's only so much puffball I could shove down my throat. So I was puffballed out. Someone offered me puffball today, actually, on via Messenger.
Yeah, the next time I'm just going to say no.
Just say no. And Michael on the chat put some information about where you might be able to see the fabulous fungi. Fantastic fungi, sorry.
Oh, that's right. Our library does that also. That's a good idea, Michael.
So Michael, are you there?
We can't hear you.
We'll keep, I know we normally do our shimmy, but maybe we'll keep going. I don't know. I don't want to speak for you. But, and upcoming in November.
Yeah, Michael, I know you're talking, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, I wonder if you sometimes get some mic issues earlier. Oh, no. Maybe log out, come back. I don't know.
Does he know we can't hear him? Okay.
Yes, he does.
Make sign language. Yeah, so in November, I hopefully with Susan, right? Susan, you're going to help us. You're going to put on a compost.
I don't know. I've been talking to Kate Schmidt about getting more involved. I don't know exactly yet what she has in mind for me to do. So
Okay, yeah, all right. We'll
I'd be
talk to you about
interested
that.
in learning more.
Yeah, we're thinking about compost presentation in November, like putting a little bit of a presentation, and for the people on this garden Zoom plot, I think would be nice. But we could talk more about that later.
Oh, okay.
Well, are you knowledgeable with the mushroom stuff since you're somewhat into compost?
No, I am not really. I've been wanting to learn more about mushrooms and to grow some. I wouldn't be brave enough to grow them in my yard. I think I'd do one of those kits in the house because I do have a lot of wild mushrooms around in my woods, and who knows, right?
Yeah, I think everyone's a little hesitant, or they hear these horror. Everyone's so extreme, like don't touch the wrong, don't eat the wrong mushroom.
Yeah.
So, Shannon, was hen of the woods to just taste like chicken or hen or?
To me,
I can't talk and chat at the same time. I have to close out a chat in order to talk. When you break it up, it looks like chicken. It looks like you've broken up chunks of rotisserie chicken. It has the consistency of chicken, but has a woodier flavor, gamier flavor. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely highly recommend. The only thing is it was a total bitch to clean. It was very much a horror. Took a very long time. So yeah, I think that the cleaning was the worst part of it, but I would highly recommend Hen of the Woods to anyone. Puffball, not so much.
Yeah, I guess there's certain conditions because the puffballs are just taken over. I guess they maybe like the certain way this season's going. They're coming out.
I didn't realize puffballs were edible.
Yeah, they don't look it, right? They look like a big
Yeah.
cotton ball. But yeah, but, I mean, again, they're supposedly not that delicious, but kind of like tofu. I guess they take on the flavor of whatever you're cooking with, and they're, not the strongest consistency. But I guess depending on how creative you are as a cook, some people bread them, and cook them like, chicken cutlets or maybe like a tofu type thing.
See, I feel like even if I breaded it and cooked it, the inside would still be this super duper uber soft consistency that the one I ate tonight, the piece of puffball I ate today, because I have so much of it, I'm going to be eating it every day for however long. But the one I ate today,
give it up, right?
I put it on top of my veggie burger, and it was perfect on top of the veggie burger, acted like cheese on top of my veggie burger.
There you go. Maybe you figured out a good use for it. But knowing you're going to find a way to eat every bite, right?
I mean, I really hate to waste it, but my sister was trying to make me feel better about it today. She was like, listen, if you put it back into nature, then that's fine, because I compost. But I mean, I would feel really bad taking this whole thing and not eating as much as I possibly can of it.
I think you're all right. I know, like when eating all my cherry tomatoes. Now you got me thinking about it today. I was picking my cherry tomatoes.
Good, you should be, because you had a ton of ripe cherry tomatoes
all
that
right,
was on the vine.
I'm getting full of tomatoes. There's only so much I could eat.
Make some kebabs make some like kebabs or like,
a roasted cherry tomato sauce.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh,
So
that
good.
sounds
It's
heavenly.
So good. You just roast the cherry tomatoes first, and then you just blend them down, and you got a tomato sauce, and they're delicious.
God, that sounds amazing. I wish I had it right now.
And a lot of people seem to be making with the peppers like a hot pepper sauce. That's what is it? How do you do that? You like blend it? I guess I have to look up recipes for that. But that
I
sounds
bet roasting would be good for that also, right? Because roasting makes the peppers taste so nice. And then
Yeah,
just
Yeah, you have to roast
I guess the hot peppers they're getting there then somehow roasting, like creating a sauce out of it. I guess you cook it. I didn't see how it's happening, but a lot of people have been posting that and sharing that. That sounds, I guess, making your own hot sauce in a way, I guess.
Mm.
But a lot of peppers coming out now. And then Jerusalem Artichoke says mine are coming out this week, which again could be a little tricky to eat too many of them, as people say, you get a little gassy.
Oh, you get extremely gassy.
You don't eat too much you want, let's put it that way.
You digest them in your colon, so it's kind of hard to avoid the gas byproduct of the sunchokes. But they're super duper good for you.
They are. And you said they don't store that well, right? Yeah, I noticed that also. I didn't find that they lasted very long.
I really wish I could hear Michael so bad. So, so there's several ways that you can attempt to store them, and I'm testing all three right now. You can leave them in the ground and harvest them as needed, but once it freezes, it's going to be hard for you to get them out. You can take them out and clean them and put them in water, similar to carrots, and put the jar of water in your refrigerator. I don't know how long that's going to last. I'm currently testing that. And what the master gardener at the medicinal garden suggested to me when I harvested their sunchokes this weekend was store them in sand. So I bought sand and an overpriced plastic container, and I have stored 15 pounds of sunchokes in sand. So I have the ones that are stored outside in dirt, because I dug them up. I had them in pots. So I dug them up and then harvested them back in pots, and then put them in the dirt in the pot. And then I have the ones that are inside in sand. So we're going to see how this goes.
And then Michael said, let me see, I'll try to speak for him. You could leave some of your sunchokes in the ground. That's true. Yeah, they will come back, and they are very invasive. They were like, all you need is like one sunchoke, and you'll have, 30.
I'm so discouraged. I had so many of them. They were beautiful. The deer annihilated everything and actually ate them so far down. We moved them because I didn't like them next to the house. Typical woman. And the deer ate everything. And like, I mean, maybe they'll come back. I don't know where they are in the ground now. I mean,
They
may
will.
be too,
If they left one, they will come back.
oh my gosh. I just
You know,
can't believe how,
I put in a spot. I'm like, definitely keep my eye on them because they really produce at a very high rate.
and the deer don't eat yours?
No, well, you know, they're in my backyard. I'm fenced off, and
Oh, you're
I'm in
fenced.
the village of Greenwood Lake. We don't like, we actually saw a family deer for the first time like 2 weeks ago. Like everyone in the block was like in shock. They're like, "Oh my god!"
Gotta say, Linda, I'm actually very surprised that they ate yours like that, because the 3 patches that I know of, they didn't touch at all, and they're not fun to like touch. Like, they're coarse. Like,
Right, and that's, well, we of course moved them when they were small, and they've been on the side of the house for years. They've been there like 15 years, and they were, you know, very, very tall. So he said, okay, let's try to move them. So obviously when they sprouted, they obviously were tender enough, and we didn't expect any problem whatsoever. We had to move 150 plants, and
Wow.
and they nailed everything.
so Michael has
they're
suggested
still under the ground, and they'll come up.
putting a 4-foot fence around the patch that you want to preserve of sunchokes. I would say put a 4-foot fence around whatever you don't want the deer to eat.
Yeah, I need a really big fence.
I use liquid fence, which seems to scare the deer away. I can't speak for anything else, but liquid fence will scare the deer away.
So if we go by Linda's house and we hear a bunch of deer farting, we know that they're the ones.
That's right, exactly. They have annihilated everything.
They got the
on the property.
sunchokes.
They have, yes, exactly.
There was a recent article in the Warwick paper about the deer being subjected to some sort of virus.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
That was that's very upsetting.
Yeah.
I guess they're dying off. I wonder what that is. I didn't read it in detail, but that's just, they said a lot of instances of deer. Right, some virus. Very.
It was the first I was hearing of it, and it was a little ironic because earlier in the week I was sharing that this was the first year that my perennials survived the season without being eaten by deer, and I thought that I had just done a massively terrific job of keeping them at bay, but it might just be that there are less deer out there right now.
Yeah,
They're all in my yard. That's yeah.
Yeah, let's hope that's not a serious issue, but unfortunately these things go around.
I did not have a fence for deer. I used liquid fence, which was urine.
Yeah, but it's just, like I said, first year through, so I learned some really hard lessons. And then if there is anything I need to protect, we do have a few areas that we've put, you know, very modest fences around and things. But our main objective was to bring wildlife onto the property, and
you did.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to be.
I also have 4 bears. I have 4 bears, and I have deer and woodchucks.
Be careful what you wish for, right?
Yes. So.
You're not feeding the bear, right?
Pardon?
Not feeding the bear, right?
No,
You feed the bear.
No, right. And thank God the one young one, he's skittish. And the one is a mother and 2 cubs, and she stays way on the back. So, and the younger one, he's afraid, you know, in the beginning, he was coming close to the house because he just didn't know enough that there would be people. So I walked out on my front porch, and there he was, and on the yard. But yeah, it's fine. That's what we'll have to do is we'll have to plant.
I have to give you a Michael joke. He said, we all have 4 bears, don't we?
We'll have what?
4 bears.
Oh, yes. I think, yes.
I didn't want that wasted.
Do we have to text him back, so you can.
or drum beat, or the drum,
Yeah.
Rim shot.
Yes.
Rim shot, there you go. I couldn't think of that. We discussed that. You know, that's always an issue, is obviously, you know, the deer and bears. We had earlier sessions trying to come up with strategies on protecting our.
Well, there is a lot that they don't eat. So, obviously we're making note of that, and we'll plant, mint. Mint is a thug on my property. I love it. It grows like crazy and they don't touch it. So next year's plan is to, plant mint around some of the things we want to protect. And we certainly have enough of it, so.
Hey all, this is Kate from Orange County Planning. Thank you again for inviting me.
Hey, Kate.
I have a question because I've been going crazy looking for that article. I read it on Friday night, but I thought it was in a Goshen one paper, and I thought it was older. But I thought that article about the deer really downplayed it and just said, oh, it's this, and you get it from eating something, and it's not transferable, and it's all okay. I found out today from a friend who does have a lot of property that they have found over a dozen just on their property, and other farmers, and it actually started right in Goshen is what she told me. So it is a bigger deal. It seems like it's something that deer had in the mid-Atlantic states for years, but they've learned to cope and have an immunity. And of course our deer don't, but it seems like the DEC is really on it. And I didn't really think that article, if we both read the same thing, I just thought I'd tell you it's a little bit more serious because I didn't get that impression from that article. Second, I'd like to ask you, since you brought up bear, Michael will tell you that I have a compost education table at the farmer's market in Goshen, and so many people have asked about bear, and I sit there going, I don't know. And I guess I'm looking for you guys to see, are the bear really attracted to compost? And that would, be a make it or break it for a lot of people, especially municipalities, which I'm trying to do in my work life. And the last thing is, if you have any extra tomatoes and you don't want to pick them or get rid of them, I will gladly come get them from you, because tomato is my favorite food. And I will do, I went to what farm yesterday? Pearson's farm in Middletown. And literally they just had a bunch of tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, that they just stopped picking, I guess. And I was there for probably an hour. So I could eat them nonstop. So let me know if you really are going to pick them, and tell me what you think about bear.
They don't go into my compost, but my compost is in cedar. It's kind of like made out of a pallet thing. And so I have 3 bins. They went in, they took out, they don't like my garbage. So, but I don't have, it's compost, veggies and eggshells and paper and garden, green matter from the garden, and they don't touch mine. That being said, my neighbors are hysterical because they go into all of their garbage cans.
Yes, I live in West Milford, and I'm in a more populated area of West Milford, but my property abuts way yonder. So on my ring cam, I'll see the bears come through, and they love the garbage. They will go after the garbage time and time and time and time again. They have never gone after my compost, and I've only really seen them come through my area and eat from my bird feeders in November and when they wake up in the spring. So when they're really hungry and willing to eat anything, they'll go for like my bird feeders and stuff. But time and time again, they will go for the garbage.
And as we can't figure, is it because of what's in the garbage? With my one girlfriend, she said she puts fish, she puts fish bones and things in the garbage, which makes sense, which actually we could compost them, but I won't because they go into her garbage. And we were thinking that possibly that was it. But I find it so weird that they go in the garbage and not the compost.
Like
Kate, I would say that generally they do not seem to go into compost. But, again, I can't make that as a steadfast rule, but I haven't heard, usually it's more garbage than, compost, especially if it's done correctly, seems to be.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, Chad. That's a good point. My point is if you're doing your compost correctly, your compost doesn't smell. That garbage definitely smells. So I think that the garbage is more enticing because the odor of it, and also it's meat and byproducts, right, and your compost is not. So I feel like compost smells like forest and garbage smells like delicious biodegrading meat.
Right. Yeah, I would say it's good.
You would say it's what?
Kate, where do you live around for tomato?
Oh, I'm in the village of Goshen.
because I might know someone in Warwick who might have a bunch of tomatoes that they might want to offer you. So I'll get in touch with you separate. Actually, one of the girls here from Nicole who's getting ankle operated, and she's going to be gone for a week or so, and she definitely wants to make sure people utilize her. And she has a lot of tomatoes that are still coming. So
I also want to say about the bears that I think it's partly learned behavior. They just go to the garbage cans because they know that there's food there. Sometimes they attack the garbage cans and there's nothing in it, but they still attack the garbage cans because I don't think it's about their sense of smell. I think it's just learned behavior. Food is found in the garbage cans, and they haven't learned yet that food is found in the compost bins.
Wouldn't they
but
smell the
it's also
food
less appealing
though?
for them, right? In the garbage, you have fish, you have chicken bones.
Yeah.
In the compost, you should have vegetable scraps and eggs.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think the bears are like.
It's not going to
dying
have the
get
same smell. It's not going to give off the same odor that rotting meats and
Right.
things are going to give.
Yeah, I
Right.
thought they would like vegetables. I was shocked that they, like I said, surprised.
Michael had said that they know the garbage schedule and it's part of their conditioning. They just know the garbage schedule. You should have seen in my area after that storm came through that knocked out our power for 14 days and everybody's refrigerator and freezers had to get thrown out. The bears had a field day with all the freezer and refrigerator garbage.
Maybe they did. Maybe they knocked the power out. They knew they set you guys up. All right, we're coming to the end in a few minutes. So now again, we're just letting you know, Michael and I are still discussing stuff, but we're probably going to have, depending on how you guys feel as well, probably one. Oh, maybe he's going to. No. We might have one meeting in November, and then maybe one or none in December. See how the field before we start up again full time. And January, February, and we were doing every week. Then we'll see how when the gardening season's first starting, and it's people getting the fever from the winter and really wanted to get into their garden. So so what? And then
I definitely want to know what days you're planning on doing the Zoom plot for November so that I can try to attend. But I'm only planning on attending one meeting next month because that's what I thought was going to happen.
Okay, what is it? What is the ideal number of participants? What gardening topics would you be interested in joining during the winter months? So if you guys have any thoughts on those questions, what do you think the ideal number of participants is? I would say 10 or 11 seems good. That's my thought. Or, the more the merrier, because hopefully you get more energy. And topics, like we mentioned, compost, I would be interested in. Or if do you guys have any suggestions of topics that you'd be interested for the winter? No? Otherwise, we'll figure out and let you know. Thank you all very much for attending. We appreciate it. And we'll keep this going. And we'll keep you posted with our email blasts. And I'll post on my Facebook page as well.
Wait, so we don't know when we're meeting again? We don't know when the next meeting is?
No, I will definitely give you a heads way in advance, but I don't think we've come up with a set date exactly because we're planning some type of presentation. So we want to, coordinate that with someone, but we'll definitely give you as much notice as possible. All right. Sorry, Michael. Hopefully your microphone works. We missed you, but we got a few jokes in there. And
I miss you, Mike.
Thank you all, guys.
Stay well. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Stay safe.
Thank you for letting me sit in. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.